We're going to move on to Ram, and who's going to be presenting for Autonomic.
Good morning. My name is Ram Shanmugam. I'm one of the co-founders and CEO of Autonomic, and I want to thank the NASA team for giving us an opportunity to present our story to all of you. Our vision at Autonomic is to help developers and software engineers write beautiful, high-quality software. The volume and velocity of software is increasing exponentially. What does that mean? Previously, it used to take a couple of weeks to a couple of months to produce software. What has happened over the last few years is software is being released at the pace at which people are writing code. So if I'm writing code today, the expectation is that that product should come out the same day. So the time it takes to test and validate and verify software has shrunk dramatically. It used to take 3 to 4 weeks to build, test, and release software. Today, it's taking less than a day. In some cases, in a couple of hours, people have to test the code that they're writing and publish it to the real world. The other thing that has happened also is the complexity of software has increased tremendously. What does that mean? Here is an example of the volume of code that's being produced for various applications. On the green, you see the amount of code being written for just cars, and the blue on the top, you're seeing the amount of code that's being written for a complex application like the Mars Explorer. What this means is not only the volume of code and velocity of code has increased, it also means that the complexity of software has increased. So it puts a tremendous amount, and now if you combine the two, the complexity and volume and velocity, you suddenly find yourself in a situation that you just don't have enough time to test the quality of product before it goes out. How are people solving this problem today? So the first thing they do is they do manual testing. They have manual testers that walk in and essentially try to test code. It works, but again, at the speed and velocity with which things are changing, the manual testing approaches don't scale. The other approach they're using is to repurpose legacy testing tools. There are several open source and custom legacy testing tools that people have created over time. And the challenge with using legacy testing tools is they were not designed for this new world that we're in. They were designed for a world when we had a few months or a few years sometimes to release code. In the new world, the time to test and time to release code has shrunk dramatically, and therefore you're finding yourself with less and less time, and repurposing legacy tools doesn't really work. The last piece, a more common trend we are seeing more recently is, well, let's go build our own automation. Now, the challenge with that is, one, it's hard to find these consultants and experts to build automation. The second big challenge is, you are now shifting from your core focus to a focus on building tools for your business. An example, a big bank we were working with a couple of weeks ago, they had hired a team of 40 people to build automation for testing, and they still hadn't figured out how to solve the problem. Whereas, in our conversation, when we showed what we had built, they were quite impressed. Now, the challenge for them was, are they a bank? Are they a testing tool software company? And obviously the answer was they want to be a bank and not be in the business of building automation. So, the legacy approaches to testing software, I guess, in summary, doesn't really work because either you throw people at it, or they try to repurpose legacy tools, or try to build automation yourself. All of these are band-aids to the current problem. How big is this challenge? Sometimes we don't quite understand the magnitude of this problem unless you start seeing it in real numbers. In 2019 alone, over $1.7 trillion was lost in economic value due to software bugs and glitches. Here are some specific examples. NASA Mars Lander program lost about $125 million in R&D because of a software bug. The Ariane space program, for example, they lost their one of their key rocket ships, and the impact of that loss was about $8.5 billion. It's sometimes not just an economic value, it's also impacting in terms of brand. Facebook, for example, had a software glitch that exposed sensitive private data of over 7 million users. And the reputation and privacy impact of this loss was huge. It was, almost incalculable. So, in summary, I think as software becomes more mainline and mainstream in our daily lives, software bugs and issues continue to wreak havoc in terms of how much economic value they cost to us and to the economy, and something needs to be done differently about it. So our mission in life is to build amazing products that reduce the quality issues and eliminate bugs in software using autonomous technologies. We have a brilliant team of scientists and advisors that have worked with us, continue to work with us in helping realize this vision. Besides myself, Ram, I have an eminent team of scientists and advisors from the best universities and the best industry experience. Jim Whitehead, who runs our science program, is a professor at UC Santa Cruz, and previously he had worked at Google and Microsoft. Raj, who's my co-founder, he came from CA Technologies and SAP, which are premier companies that have built tools and products to address quality issues. John Schaefer, one of our advisors, he is a preeminent AI machine learning expert based out of University of Alberta. Together, we built an amazing team of scientists and engineers to address this quality issue using AI and machine learning, which we'll talk about in a second. What do we do? So our core innovation allows our application to understand software that is being tested and generate autonomous code to test the software. We today, using our application, can test various aspects of software quality, starting with functional testing, API testing, performance testing, compliance validation, and user acceptance. If you think about all the functions, all the validation verification needs of software, we essentially cover 95% of all the functional and all the verification and validation needs for software quality. The only thing we don't address today using our product is unit testing, and we're working on the capability to address unit testing needs as well. How does your software work? Essentially, there are 4 components to our product architecturally. The first one is the ability to understand what application or software you're trying to test. We use a technique called behavior trees. Think of it like an agent that crawls through your application and code and essentially builds a graph of your entire application. The advantage of doing that is it understands when the application changes and the code changes, and automatically knows when to trigger testing when functionality changes. Then we use a variety of techniques like natural language processing, machine vision, grammar-based techniques, and GANs to understand the intent of the application. These techniques by themselves are very well-known techniques and nothing proprietary about the techniques. But what's unique about how we build the application is we have essentially taken all these techniques and trained and purpose configured these techniques to work for the software testing world. The ability to understand what your application is doing and generate test scenarios. The ability to visually inspect software code, just like a human tester would, and form understandings and come up with scenarios that can test is another unique capability of our machine vision capability. We use a lot of grammar-based techniques to generate test data. Synthetic test data is a key component of testing, and we use that GAN-based approaches and grammar-based approaches to do that. Together, combining these various techniques, we generate test scenarios, test automation code, and test data, and combine them and run them to identify bugs and issues. In addition to the capability of testing from one location, we've also built a network that allows us to test the experience of the application from different locations. Today, customers are using applications and software from various points in the world. Particularly with remote work, a lot of enterprises want to be able to test code from different locations. We've taken our technology that tests the quality and efficiency of software from one location and expanded that into a network. And the idea of doing this is to simulate remote users using your application and see how your software performs. This is another added advantage of our capability. Using our product today, customers have generated significant improvements. We've seen up to 80% reduction in time to test software. We've seen about 60% improvement in coverage of quality, and then double the productivity of a developer. Commercially speaking, our product has been in the market for about 2.5 years, 3 years. We have a free version, a developer version of the product that today is used by over 600,000 developers globally. We have some of the world's leading organizations using the free version of the product to test code. In addition, we have an enterprise version. Today, we have over 40 enterprises globally using the product. Some of the household names you see have been using our autonomous testing product for improving the quality and performance of their software code. We also today use our product. Our product is also used by several industry partners. Some of the partners that you see here on this slide use our product for their customers, and some of them use it internally for improving the capability of their internal testing organizations when they deliver services to their customers. We've also been recognized for a lot of the innovations that we have created over the last 3 years. One of the more important ones that we were recognized recently was by IEEE. IEEE has created a separate chapter for software testing, and one of our core papers on autonomous testing received the Best Paper Award for innovations in software testing. From a company perspective, we are a startup. We started the company in 2018. Over the last 3 years, we have consistently grown. We end the year with about 1.8 million in ARR. We are also looking to expand our autonomous capability to extend beyond testing into other use cases. We hope to achieve and demonstrate these use cases in the next 2 to 3 quarters, which extends beyond testing into capabilities like configuration management, patch management, etc. Our goal is to, as we continue to grow, to hit about 6.5, 7 million next year and continue the growth beyond that. From a funding perspective, we are venture-backed. We raised a small round of funding last year, and we're currently in the process of raising our next round of financing. Our goal is to raise 7 to 10 million in financing, and that will help us achieve the revenue goals for next year, as well as set the company up for growth in the following year, which we hope to hit about 19 to 20 million in revenue. Our funding will allow us to scale beyond product engineering to build out our sales and go-to-market team, as well as customer success and some of the technical support functions as well. Hope this was informative, and I once again want to thank NASA and the iTech team for giving us an opportunity to share our story, and we will look forward to answering any questions.
All right, thank you so much. Let's start off the questions. Harry?
Thank you again. Very, very nice. So, I mean, this would have, I understand the impact this would have. What I'm trying to get, what I don't really get a feel for is how easily it works and how well it works. And I'm hoping that when you go to that you're willing to show us a demo tomorrow at the tables. I really would like to understand how it.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, no, we have a couple of 100,000 users around the world using the product today, and they use it pretty much daily to test applications ranging from simple web applications to complex mathematical applications. our scientific applications, and we've heard nothing but great reviews. Our tech is rated 4.8 out of 5 on Google by over a couple 100,000 users, so it's pretty robust, and you'll be quite impressed. I will show you a demo tomorrow.
Very much.
So I'm intrigued by it too. It's got a lot of potential impact, as you well know, since you're in the field. What is the input of the that you input to this? Is it source code or is it the executable? And who's the user of this tool? Is it someone in your organization, or do you sell out this tool and a software development team would use it? And what type of skill base do they need?
Okay, so it's a software product. It runs on the cloud. It's a SaaS application. We also deploy it on premise. The input, or what we need, is the binary, the application itself, and the binary itself is good enough for us to test and validate. What we are building is a plugin that allows us to also input source code, and when you input source code, we can then tie failures to where it fails in the source code, and to be able to instrument that. That's the next level of evolution on the product. Eventually, we want to get to this ultimate vision of self-generating applications, where we can heal the application itself, not just identifying the bug. So that's what we want to get to. So self-healing software, again, the idea is when you have remote applications, you just cannot go and fix it. So you just want to be able to self-heal as you go along. The user itself, it's designed for a developer, and I think I'm a developer. Raj, my co-founder, is a developer. We had to test code, and we used to hate testing code, right? So we felt like it needs something that a developer can use with a push of a button, and that's the user experience essentially. But in terms of how deep you want to go and how technical you want to go, there are different levels of user experience. But the idea here is you should just be able to, from a command line, initiate the testing, and it should work, and it should tell you what succeeded and what failed.
Great. Have a good discussion. Look forward.
Sure. So how large a software can you do? Usually these validation or verification software, they explode exponentially with the length of the code and the number of things in there. Can you really, so if you get given a couple of million line or 5 million line piece of code, can you actually sit there and really comment on it?
Yeah, so I can give you, I don't know about pieces of code, but I can tell you the complexity of applications we've tested, or our customers have tested. We have our customers, we have, Amazon has tested our product on their primary code base, on their primary application. Oracle has tested it on their core application use cases. We've had users from Salesforce. So some of the more sort of robust, large, complex enterprise applications have been tested and validated against this application. Honeywell uses it on both IT and industrial applications for testing and validation. So it's been used in pretty complex and pretty mission critical environments. In terms of lines of code, I can't comment. I don't know how to quantify that at this point.
All right. Any other questions? Cheryl, let's go to you.
So I see you have several integrations, and one of them caught my eye because it's Selenium. How many products is your product dependent on in order to run its test case?
So all we need is the application that you're testing, or the environment you're testing. So there's no dependency from that perspective. What it generates automation code at the end of the day, test automation code. We are not dependent on Selenium. One of the more common outputs is Selenium, which is an automation framework, and we generate Selenium code. But that happens to be the most accepted automation programming language, if you will, for automation coding. But our output could be anything. We could generate other types of automation code. In fact, some of our customers have taken it and used it for generating robotic process automation code, for example, not just test automation code. What we're doing is today, this work is done by testers and test automation engineers. We've essentially created a machine equivalent of a test automation engineer to generate the automation code and run tests. And Selenium happens to be one of the more common frameworks, but we do support other frameworks. In terms of integrations, it integrates into other DevOps and CI/CD tools, which is essentially how people use our product today. Sorry, Cheryl, go ahead.
So you're not running Selenium when you're doing your browser testing or anything like that. You guys built your own browser-based testing?
No, we do generate Selenium code and use that for testing. So our output is Selenium code or Selenium++, other things. Yes.
Thank you.
Rich, let's go to you. Rich?
Got me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, I was going to ask a little bit what Harry said. Some of the code out there is very large, and some very sensitive users use very old software systems and mainframes. We're talking Fortran and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Where the data is very sensitive. Banks and things like this. How would your process be useful to those kind of coders? I asked the question because my son is very high up VP of a bank, a large credit card and bank company, so he might be very interested in.
Yeah, so it's a very common request. Our customers use it. So we have a cloud version, but we also deploy it on premise for private instances. So we do have some large banks that take our product and deploy it on their internal data center for testing. So that's how we overcome the security and other concerns customers may have. But another sort of data point I just want you to be aware of is our application from types of code base and types of applications we test. We don't work with old legacy client server or green screen type applications. So our system doesn't work with that. It has to be browser based, mobile based, or API or cloud-based applications. So some of the mainframe applications we may not be able to support or test currently.
All right. Paul, you had a question?
Hi, Ram. Thanks a lot. I don't have a technical background, so I'll ask a business question. You actually just answered the first part of it when you answered Rich, which is how far back it goes in legacy systems. So my short follow-up from that is, during the development, did you find cases where your product was not able to complete the testing objective, and therefore you learned from it and then you improved it? And if so, can you just give us one example of that?
Yeah, so one of the things, so when we first developed the product, we did not have test data generation as a capability in the product. So as we were testing, our customers would ask for synthetic test data. So when you test, to test applications, you need data sets, and they don't want to use production data sets. So we would manually generate those data sets for them or the customers would have to generate their own data sets to test these applications. So a year later, as the product evolved, we felt that we could use some interesting AI techniques to essentially understand what data sets are needed. And we synthetically now generate data sets for our customers. So that's an example of how we were customer driven. In fact, we're taking that test data generation to a completely different level, where we're coming up with this notion of a synthetic enterprise. So let's say you're a bank or you're a retailer or you're a manufacturing company, and you want to test all your applications. In order for you to test, you need a large volume of test data that mimics your or simulates your entire enterprise. So what we are building currently is the notion of a synthetic enterprise, where if you're a retailer, we will have all the data sets you need synthetically generated by our AI system to be able to automatically test and validate your applications in a retail environment. So you don't have to go looking for synthetic test data sets.
Great answer. Can I do one quick follow-up then? Is it fair to interpret, or have you therefore formed vertical markets or specialty user groups that are giving you feedback by vertical market and functional need so you evolve the capabilities? Am I hearing you right?
Absolutely, yes. Absolutely,
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Do we have any other questions?
I have one.
Yeah.
When you make version 2 of this software, do you use version 1 to test version 2 and make sure you haven't messed anything up?
Yeah, we use our product on our own product. We have AutonomIQ. Yes, absolutely. That's one of our success criteria before we release the product. Absolutely, yes.
So how long until you put yourselves out of work when you do that? Once it starts just writing itself, then you're out of a job, right?
That's right.
Were there any other questions from the panel before we close out? Okay.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Ram. And now, without further ado, I would like to turn it over to John Carr, the Deputy Chief Technologist from the Marshall Space Flight Center, to announce the winners of this year's 2020 Cycle 2 Forum. Aside from Eternal Glory, you will also be receiving one of these, so be checking for it in your mailboxes. John, the floor is yours.
All right. Thanks, Max. Yes. Hello, everybody. My name is Dr. John Carr. As Max said, I'm the Deputy Chief Technologist out at the Marshall Space Flight Center in Huntsville, Alabama. So certainly I'm proud to be here representing the NASA CTC, the Chief Technologist Council, as well as the amazing and diverse set of iTech judges that we have. And it's my honor to announce the winners here on the Cycle 2 competition. So I wanted to say all 10 technologies that we saw throughout the last 2 days were, again, some of the most innovative that we've seen. So thank you all to the innovators, to your teams, for bringing forward your companies to iTech. And thanks for making it extremely difficult on all of us on the judging panel. You know, we hope that win or lose, the exposure that you receive here, the relationships that you've built over the last couple of days prove worthwhile for you all as well as for us in accomplishing our mission. So again, thank you. All right, so let's dive in. 3 winners to announce here in no particular order. Let's start with the first one. The first one to announce is AutonomIQ. Okay, so autonomous automation. Again, this is an X-Factor innovation. AutonomIQ offers an autonomous automation solution that leverages the latest in machine learning, artificial intelligence, and auto-scaling to self-code, self-scale, and self-heal. No doubt, automation is pervasive, both terrestrially and throughout space exploration. Millions of lines of code, right, run everyday products from healthcare to the numerous cell phone and web-based services that I know that we all love, right, even the one that we're using right now. And something that I took from the impact tables earlier today, a comment made is NASA code is some of the most complex in the world. Okay, now testing use cases, off-nominal fault paths and the like is a very large task and with very extensive human labor in the loop. The technology and automation offered by AutonomIQ could usher in a new era for our flight software, ultimately streamlining our science and exploration objectives. So congratulations, well done, AutonomIQ.
Thank you, everyone. We are super grateful for this opportunity to participate in the show. And even though we were selected as one of the top 3, truly feel everyone in this event is a winner and truly honored to be in the company of amazing founders and startups. We also want to recognize the AutonomIQ team, our investors, advisors, partners, customers, and our user community for continuously encouraging to keep pushing the technology envelope. And last but not least, the recognition from NASA hopefully will spur more investment and research in solving software quality issues and more broadly industrializing software development processes and hopefully build high quality software. Thanks again, everyone, for your support and thanks for the recognition. Appreciate it.
Congratulations. Thank you.